Good morning, I'm meteorologist Cheetah Craft, and here's your latest tropical update on Hurricane Idalia and Hurricane Franklin. So let's first start in on Hurricane Idalia. Now, this is expected to make landfall early to mid-morning tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning. Right now, it gained strength, and the latest update from the National Hurricane Center has this continuing to gain strength with maximum sustained winds at 80 miles per hour. It's moving in a north direction at 14 miles per hour. At 4 a.m. this morning, it became a hurricane. Before that, it was a tropical storm. So it is starting to already impact with the outermost bands areas in South Florida and portions of the West Coast and Southwest Florida as well. Now, what's going to happen? We're expecting strengthening, and the reason it has low wind shear. Think winds aloft, and any tropical system helps to kind of shear it apart. So that's not going to happen. We have low wind shear, so winds are not going to be a factor here, and it's going to be moving in warmer water temperatures. So right now you can see it's water temperature is about 86. It's expected to move into 87, potentially upper 80s as it nears the coastline of the west coast of Florida over the next 24 hours. So we're going to start to see from these outermost bands heavy downpours, some really strong winds. And even though we're looking in between the red zones of preparing for impacts, we have to monitor the forecast even for the potential right now of those impacts being felt in South Florida and portions of Southwest Florida. So you can see almost the entire west coast there of Florida bracing for impacts from Hurricane Idalia. Right now it's a Category 1. As I show you the latest track from the National Hurricane Center, it will probably become a Category 2 this afternoon, potentially a Cat 3 late this evening, or maybe overnight. So we will be looking for that update for major status. Remember, a major hurricane is a Category 3 or higher as it nears the coastline of the west coast of Florida. The reason, again, remember, low wind shear, warm water temperature, so everything is ripe for rapid intensification. Rapid intensification happens when all the conditions are conducive for this to strengthen and develop, and that's what we're anticipating. Now get this, after landfall, it remains as a Category 1 through almost the panhandle of Florida, moving into portions of Georgia and South Carolina as a tropical storm, and then moving out, maybe potentially even in North Carolina, back into the open waters of the Atlantic, still as a tropical storm. It could actually re-strengthen. It would still keep the name Idalia because it formed in the same basin. So even after landfall, its name would hold if it moves back in the open waters of the Atlantic because it originated in the Atlantic. So a big path there for what is Hurricane Idalia, and it may impact several states. So let's talk about the winds, some of the impacts that we're expecting from Hurricane Idalia. Potential landfall by early to mid-morning tomorrow morning. Timeline here showing 9:30 tomorrow morning, potentially making landfall then on your Horseshoe Beach. If you're familiar with the west coast of Florida, I would suggest still, though, watching this track very closely. We could see some changes with this track over the next 24 hours. So don't think that this is hard set here on the landfall and location. Things are very subject to change. When you're looking at the colors, notice red is indicating 74 miles per hour plus. That's a Category 1 hurricane with max sustained winds there at 74. So easily wind gusts above 100 miles per hour. Putting this into forecast motion, by Wednesday evening, it races to the north and potentially to the east, and still having tropical storm force conditions even along portions of Georgia and South Carolina. So we are going to monitor this all throughout the evening tonight, throughout Wednesday, and even into Thursday morning. Notice rainfall between 5 to 10 inches of rain. Now that's enough to create flash flooding, and isolated spots up to 12 not out of the question. Winds, gusts 100 miles per hour plus. We'll be watching the strength of Idalia. Storm surge 12 feet plus, depending on landfall, and that could be life-threatening right there. And then as far as any severe weather impacts, even outside of Idalia, it could lead to isolated tornadoes, especially when you're tracking east of a tropical landfalling system. So we will be monitoring that. As far as the future track for rainfall, notice when you're looking at the orange into the red, that's showing anywhere from 4 to 5 inches, and you can see a big area with that. But it's those areas in purple that you start to see some 8 to potentially even 12 inches of rain. And that's not only just upon landfall. This could continue throughout Wednesday and maybe even into early Thursday morning, with new areas from North Carolina and portions of Virginia seeing that type of rain. Now let's talk big picture overall across the Atlantic basin. Not only do we have Hurricane Idalia, remember you heard about Hurricane Franklin. That was our first major hurricane of the season. 2 waves now behind it with the latest update that have medium odds for development. So you see both of these waves, one in the central Atlantic, one just off the coast of Africa, now is a 50% chance of development. Back to Franklin. So Hurricane Franklin, category 4 at this point, expected to stay in the open Atlantic. Now mariners need to continue to monitor this. It will stay just to the west there of Bermuda and stay to the east of the eastern seaboard, but still something we need to watch when you're dealing with a strength of that magnitude. As far as this year, we are really getting active out there. So notice we already have Idalia. Next is Jose, Katia, Lee, Margot, and we can always keep you posted right here. If you also want the latest, you can go to khou.com.